Díomh agus fáilte arás to the Crazy House Prices podcast, the podcast where I help you buy your own home, get your finances in order, analyse the housing system in Ireland, and generally help you adult a little bit better. I'm your host, Kieran Mulqueen, and today in episode 36, I'm talking about one of the trickiest parts of buying a home in Ireland, that's buying in a property chain. So I've never personally been in a chain, not yet anyway, but over the years I've spoken to thousands of you who have, and you've sent me in your very best tips, warnings, and hard-learned lessons. So what we'll do in this episode is we'll go through what a chain actually is, why it's extra tough right now in Ireland, and what you can do to try and improve your chances, what you can't control, and basically how to manage the whole nightmare without losing your mind. And stick around until the end because I'll give you a little checklist then that you can follow. Now, before we get fully into it, I really want to push my Patreon for a second because I never do. It's only €3 a month. It's really cheap, to be honest, probably too cheap. But think of it like buying me a coffee. If you can find a coffee in Dublin for €3, will you let me know? But think of it like buying me a coffee, and in return you get exclusive access to bonus content like detailed Q&As where I answer every single question sent in there in podcast form. Plus you'll get the unique opportunity to engage with my audience of over 115,000 followers. So you can ask me something that I can ask them, and you'll just get much better answers back that Google just wouldn't be able to do for you. Anyway, what is a chain? A chain is when your purchase basically depends on your buyer's purchase or your seller's purchase, and maybe their purchase, their buyer's purchase, and so on. So think of it as a chain. So every link in the chain needs to close for the others to go through. So if one link breaks or falls apart, the whole thing can collapse. And in a normal market, this is really frustrating. But in Ireland right now, with record low supply and record high demand, and basically estate agents prioritizing cash buyers first, everyone else is last. Well, first time buyers and then everyone else. It's just absolutely brutal. As we all know, property has become this commodity where most people are just focused on one thing, getting in as much money as they can the fastest way possible. So they often don't care about fairness when it comes to chains or the stress this can cause people or families. So what can you control? Basically, you need to make yourself look as ready as possible. So lots of people recommend that you sell your own home before you buy, and obviously that would help a lot, but that's not really realistic for most people. But what you can do is make yourself look like a really safe bet. So one follower suggested having your own buyer as far along the process as possible before you start bidding on other homes. Another said that they use realistic closing dates from their own buyer to pressure their seller to move a little bit faster. So if you can get your own buyer to the point where contracts are nearly ready to sign, well then you're in a much stronger position when bidding on your next home. Another tip that was sent in is if you're selling and buying in the same area, using the same estate agent for both can help speed up communication and coordination. I can see how this might work for you or against you, so I would probably leave this one up to you, but it's definitely something to think about. And then what you need to do then is mention in your offers that your sale is already really well progressed, and this will reassure the estate agent on the vendor's side. The goal always is to basically show the estate agent that you're serious, you're organized, and you won't be the one that causes delays. Then the next thing you can do, which is really important, is to choose a strong, proactive solicitor. A slow or lazy solicitor or a bad solicitor can absolutely kill your chances. A good solicitor, in my opinion, is worth their weight in gold. Many people did suggest this, that it's the biggest single difference was having a solicitor who basically chased everyone constantly, coordinated with the other solicitors in the chain, and pushed for agreed closing dates in writing. That is really important. So don't just go for the cheapest solicitor. Go for one who's going to fight your corner and won't let things drag. So in Ireland, most people will find a good solicitor through word of mouth from recent buyers that they trust, or friends, ideally family, whatever, or colleagues who've bought in the last year or two. But what you can do is you can actually ask solicitors questions before you engage with them in terms of getting them to sort out your purchases or sales, whatever. So basically ask them how many conveyancing cases they handle at a time, because if they've loads on, then they might be a bit slow. Find out what their average timeline is from sale agreed to completion. You can test their communication before hiring them, so see how quickly they reply to your initial email inquiry, things like that, and ask them if they'll deal with you directly, or are you going to be dealing with multiple people, or maybe someone who's new or junior who doesn't really know what's going on. And definitely check their online reviews, Google, Trustpilot and all that. But but prioritize recent ones over like really old ones. And one of the best tells is you can basically ask them this question: if the other side drags their feet, what do you do? And a good solicitor will have a clear, proactive answer on this, not just the kind of, we'll wait for them, but definitely sort a really good solicitor. If your financial plan is basically hope for the best, well, we need to talk. I've trusted Financial Planning Matters with my own money for years. They sort out all my pensions, my investments, everything. They're an Irish company, and in a sector where too many are just chasing commission, FPMS are genuinely on your side, which is really rare. I know personally the impact it can have in a family not having a financial plan in place, and I know we Irish tend to put off finance stuff, but please don't. Their new website is packed with tools and guides to help you get your money sorted. So go to fpms.ie. Future you will thank you. Then the next thing you can do is really keep your side moving at all times. So any delay that you cause will be used against you. So that sounds like you're in court or you're being arrested, will be used against you. Anyway, if a document's requested, have it there the same day. Get your surveyor ready, all that kind of stuff. If you're selling an apartment, request the MUD Act replies from your management company, request the minutes, all that kind of stuff from the meetings as soon as you go sale agreed, because some management companies take weeks or even months to send them, and that can hold up an entire chain. So if you are doing, or if you're a multi-unit development, just get all the stuff ready in advance so that you can send them on. Then the next thing you can do is kind of manage timelines and backup plans. So one of the biggest mistakes people make is assuming that they'll close their sale and collect the keys on the same day. It's possible, but it's extremely difficult, especially nowadays. So you need a workable kind of backup plan, whether that's staying with family or using an off-season kind of Airbnb or putting belongings into storage for a couple of weeks, whatever it is. None of them are ideal, obviously, but they're far better than losing the house because you can't be flexible. So you really have to try and be flexible and just try and sort somewhere to stay. Just the problem with that is you don't know how long it's going to last. But if you kind of take all this advice on and you have everything organized, you should, be able to match it up within a few days, hopefully. Then the next thing you can do is you can control the narrative with the estate agent. So if you're in a chain, some agents are going to push you aside in favor of easier buyers, usually cash buyers. You can't change that mindset completely, but you can present yourself as the most prepared, most organized buyer in the chain so that you're mortgage ready, your solicitor ready, your closing dates are agreed, you're ready to book a survey. All that kind of stuff can show that you're moving in parallel with your own sale, and then it's harder for the agent to dismiss you. And then the last thing is, don't jump the gun on big purchases like furniture. It's surprisingly common people do this. One follower said they had to cancel their whole furniture order because the shop wouldn't hold on to it. So I know if there's a sale or whatever, it might be tempting to just get them, but if you don't have anywhere to store them, or if the shop won't hold on to it, like though they're so bulky, and couches and beds and stuff, if you're ordering these kind of things for the new house, I would leave it as late as you can. But thing with, say, if you're getting a couch, there can sometimes be, if you're getting, say, a custom couch, it can be really long lead times or whatever. So you just have to really kind of make sure you're organising that, but just don't jump the gun. There are things that you just simply cannot control. So there's basically whole parts of this that you can't influence. So things like the speed of the other buyers and the sellers in the chain, you can't control them. A seller or a buyer suddenly changing their mind, legal or title issues on the other properties, or delays from, say, local authorities or lenders or management companies. They're just things that you can't do. One follower said, and they put it very well, sometimes you just have to accept that large chunks of this process are out of your hands and focus your energy on the bits that you can push forward. And I think that's really good advice. Next then is risk management. So because the market is so biased towards speed and money, your goal is to look like the buyer who can basically deliver those things without putting yourself in a risky position, obviously. So that means making sure that you have your mortgage approval fully valid and up to date. Make sure you have a solicitor who sets the closing dates and pushes them. Make sure your documents and your surveys are done ASAP, and your valuation, all that kind of stuff. Make sure you have a backup plan ready to go. I know that sounds easier than it actually is, but that's just the reality of it. You have to have a backup plan of somewhere to stay, especially if you've family and kids and they're in school and whatever. It's a really, really, really stressful time. So if you're in a chain, you can't just kind of sit back and hope it all works out. You really do have to drive it every single day. Hence why a follower compared being in a chain to having a full-time job. I can imagine it really does feel like that, like you're constantly on to all the different people involved in the whole process. So just as a bit of a checklist and a recap on what I've just said and how to survive a chain in Ireland. So your action plan is this. Number 1, progress your sale as far as possible before bidding. Number 2, some people recommend using the same estate agent for buying and selling to speed up the communication. I'd leave that one up to you. Number 3, hire a solicitor who's proactive and insists on firm closing dates. Number 4, request all the documents in your multi-unit development early if you're selling an apartment especially. Number 5, don't assume your sale and purchase will close on the same day. Make sure you have a backup plan. Number 6, avoid ordering furniture or big purchases until a closing date is locked in. Number 7, keep every document and step moving quickly on your side. And number 8, accept that delays will happen, but just don't let them be your fault. August sin é le haid an episode shut of the Crazy House Prices podcast. Chains in Ireland are not for the faint-hearted. The system is really stacked against you, but with the right preparation, the right team, and a proactive approach, you can get through it. Thanks to everyone who sent in tips for this episode. They're what makes this advice possible. If this episode has helped or gave you something to think about, please share it with a friend. Tag me on Instagram, leave a quick review. Really helps the podcast reach more people. You can even comment now on episodes on Spotify, which is kind of cool. So do that if you can. And if you're enjoying the podcast and my Instagram and you want to show your support, head over to patreon.com/crazyhouseprices. Your support not only helps keep this podcast and the Instagram page going, but it also gives you exclusive access to bonus content like detailed Q&A podcasts where I answer every single question sent in. Plus you'll get the unique opportunity to engage with my community of over 115,000 followers, asking them questions that Google could never answer. Also, my book, How to Buy a Home in Ireland, is available nationwide. Just Google it. You'll find it somewhere in stock, or even better, just rent it from your local library for free. I think there's 100 copies in Dublin City Library alone. So there should be, wherever you are, wherever your local library is, there should be a copy there, and you can order it, or they can send it out to that library if you request it. So yeah, go down that route if you don't want to buy it, or maybe a friend has it or something like that. But it's quite helpful, I will say. Anyway, I'll chat to you all soon. Slán the phone.